It's been 2 months since I installed the EG4 18K hybrid inverter and the big battery Ethos batteries into my house. I pulled up my app today and found out that I have brought in a 0.5 megawatt of solar in 2 months, and the house has used 300 kilowatt hours of power from that inverter. Now that I've had my EG4 system in the house for 2 months and I've got that 0.5 megawatt of solar in and 300 kilowatt hours of use, I want to walk you through the full system, starting from the solar panels, going to the indoor equipment, and then talk to you about the various circuits I have running on my house system, and perhaps a few things that have worked out very well and I'm happy with, and a few things that have been an issue. So let's go ahead and hike up the hill here and talk about my solar install and then get to the EG4 system in the house. Behind me you can see my solar panels. I currently have 9,000 watts of solar panels going to the house. Now the rated value is 9,000 watts, but these panels are very old. I'm guessing somewhere between 15 and 25 years old, and so the highest amount of output that I've seen from them is about 7,500 watts, so not quite the 9,000 that they're rated for. Now whenever it's wintertime, I may see an improvement in that whenever these panels get cold. So let's go over here real quick and I will show you the panels and how I get these from outside into the house. I have 3 different solar arrays. They have 12 panels apiece, and that makes up a total of 9,000 watts. So I have a video showing how I made the wooden frames for this system. It's actually been quite nice and it's inexpensive to build. I do have each of these arrays grounded. I was able to link the panels together and then run a copper wire to a grounding rod to make sure that everything is grounded well. When I installed my first solar array, I did not ground the system, and I noticed that every time a big storm would blow by and lightning would strike somewhere near, I would have a glitch or a power outage for a short time, and it was because my panels were not grounded. So grounding your array is very important. This was the second array that I built, and I had some inconsistencies, as you can see. This is the third one that I built, and I did a much better job at getting everything lined up and looking good. So I've been very pleased with having the 9,000 watts of solar coming to the house. Let's step behind this array real quick and I'll show you the mount, but I'll also have a link to my build video down below. So as you can see, I have sunk 6 4x4s into the ground, about 2 feet. On top of that, I have 2x6s. On this array, I made my own little brackets, which have some all thread with an aluminum bar and then a unistrut, and just used regular nuts and bolts up here to get that attached. I have all of my panels linked together, and that goes over here to a single grounding rod, which is attached down here in the ground. Now the EG4 18K hybrid inverter can accept up to 600 volts per string of solar, and it will use up to 500 volts of that. And so with my 12 panels per array, I have those linked up in series. So positive, negative, all the way to the end, to have one single positive, one single negative, for a voltage of somewhere around 400 to 450 volts. The higher the voltage, the better power I get late at night or early in the morning. So it is nice to be able to do that. And so I have the 3 arrays going in to the 3 MPPT charge controllers, and at a high voltage with low amperage. The single positive, single negative wires go to 10 gauge solar wire, which then goes down a conduit into my house. And that is where the next step will be, is inside the house. Like I said outside, I have 3 different strings of solar coming in, and so I have 3 different breakers here. So if I were to open this, I can turn off any of those 3 solar arrays outside and shut the power that's coming in from the solar. I think it's important to have those breakers so that you can turn the system off if need be for maintenance or for safety. These 3 glass bulbs that you see are actually midnight solar surge protectors at 600 volts apiece. That's actually connected to the solar. This big box is the EG4 18K Hybrid Inverter. It's a fantastic inverter. It has the ability to pull in 18,000 watts of solar and has an AC output of 12,000 watts. It has all kinds of features like UPS and grid tie limiter, and you can charge from the grid, or it can be totally off grid like I currently have my system. I've popped the latches here so we can open this up and look inside. Here on the inside, it has a communications port which I have plugged up to my batteries. It has 4 different places for solar. I currently have 3 of them being used because spot number 1 is a little bit special. It's a 25 amp double input versus the 15 amp on the other 2. I've got my 4 different battery cables connected over here. Don't have anything on the generator, but I've got my loads output and my grid connected. The grid is actually turned off at my house breaker right now. These other little wires are the midnight solar surge protectors that I showed you, and those are actually connected into my solar input up here, so they are very directly connected to that solar. Up here there are breakers to turn off the battery and breakers to turn off the load, and if I wanted to turn off the solar, there's actually another little breaker over here which I can show you. There is one more lever up here that would turn off the solar, and there's also a Wi-Fi dongle down here. Let's take a look at the inverter display. You can see my battery over here is already at 100% at 11:30 this morning. If I go over here, you can see it's got 67 watts, 56 and 58 watts coming in from solar. I've seen that up to 7,500 total whenever I have need of the solar. And today already 5.3 kilowatt hours, and the total for the solar input is 1/2 megawatt. And if I move down here, you can see the charge energy is 290 kilowatt hours, and all the way down here 304.4 is the consumption there. So it's used a lot of power in 2 months. Now the inverter has all kinds of cool things like display for solar and battery and grid and the UPS feature. You can show you some alarms. There's none in there. And then right here are all the settings you can get into and change for your particular setup. Now to store the incoming power, I'm using the big battery Ethos. This is a 48 volt lithium iron phosphate storage system, and I currently have 20 kilowatt hours of battery storage between these 2 stacks over here. It has been a fantastic battery, and it communicates perfectly with the EG4 inverter through that data cable. And these are being run in parallel so that it is one big battery essentially, and works out very well. Now my system is running totally off the grid. This is a critical loads panel which is separate from the house, but it has all of my house circuits in it. So refrigerator, well pump, dishwasher, microwave, the clothes dryer is on here, the washing machine. I've got bathrooms, I've got my ground faults in there. Yeah, all kinds of really cool stuff that's being run totally off the grid. Am I happy with this system after using it for 2 months and 1/2 megawatt of solar with 300 kilowatt hours of output? I'm very happy. I've had one issue, and that was that at one point I had over voltage on my solar input. I don't know where it came from, and it's not happened again, but I will keep you updated, especially in the winter time, as my panel voltage may increase. So it just reset the inverter for about 1 minute and my power came back on, but I've not seen that again, so I don't know what that was about. I'll keep you updated. But as far as the positive things about this inverter, my area has a grid power outage, I would say somewhere around 2 to 3 times a month, and my cooking stove in here will have the clock blinking, but everything else is running just fine. So it is very nice to have this off-grid system. Now I've had this only in the summer months running, and I don't know what it's going to be like in the winter time as far as how low my 20K of battery storage is going to drop versus the 9,000 watts of solar I have coming in. But this inverter right here at idle or at rest only uses between 50 and 70 watts. That's huge. So a lot of inverters use 100 or 130 watts at rest, which will pull down your battery system very quickly, especially cloudy days and overnight. So to have something this powerful use so little idle consumption is just fantastic. The installation process couldn't be easier. There is a nice easy mounting bracket. Now the unit does weigh 130 pounds, so make sure you have somebody with you when you lift that up onto the wall. But as far as the connections go, the communications cable is well labeled and easy to use, and it has settings in here to very quickly and easily connect to most big name batteries, and you should not have a problem with that. It does have the input potential for up to 18,000 watts of solar with 4 different MPPT charge controllers. I currently just have 3 of them, and it seems to be doing very well with that. I got this EG4 18K from Signature Solar, and the batteries are from there as well, so I will have links to that in the description down below. If you use my link, I will get a couple dollars back whenever you order from there, and it will help out the channel significantly. So thank you so much for watching. If you have questions or comments about the EG4 18K or the Ethos batteries or the other components that I've shown in the video, then please ask those questions in the comments down below. I'm Seth with DIY Volts, and I will see you in the next video.